thank you for giving up your lunch hour or eating your lunch at your desk. I do the same often. And most of you do remember, just a little bit of a refresher on myself. Most of you do remember me as the PEME specialist when I worked for the state of Michigan. I was with the state for 41 years in various capacities. Some of you who have been around a while may remember me also as one who handled the LOC02 disaster prior to doing PEME. That was a coding process in our system, or in the Bridges system, that allowed payments to go through. And I was tasked with helping to clean that up. And I remember receiving a lot of calls from facilities who were near bankruptcy because payments were not coming through on your side. So I realized there was an issue with nursing homes being paid by Medicaid and the need for that. So when I was asked to take on the PEME process and the program itself and develop it, I jumped at that chance. So first of all, we're going to go through just a little bit of a refresher regarding PEME. For those of you, though, who are new on the line. Oh, excuse me. Let's go back one. What is PEME? It's an unpaid medical expense incurred in the 3 months that precede the Medicaid application month, known as the retro months. For those of you that don't know, retro Medicaid is a little separate application that you fill out, and you usually submit it with your regular Medicaid application. That would be submitted to see if they would qualify for Medicaid to cover those 3 months. That is a requirement before you can apply for PEME. I would need to know, or the worker, let's say Tracy, would need to know that they did not qualify for retro Medicaid, and the denial would have to be based on assets. So why is there a PEME program? It's to assist families with unpaid bills that are not covered by Medicaid due to assets. And it's to help nursing facilities and providers get paid. I can't answer for other law firms, but I do know that at Carrier Law, we incorporate the PEME program as part of our planning process for Medicaid eligibility. Our statistics show that 99% of our applications for Medicaid get approved on the first try. This assures timely payments to facilities, and that is our goal. We want to see that you facilities get your payments in a timely fashion. Who qualifies for PEME offset? Nursing home residents who have unpaid bills that were incurred in the 3 months prior to the initial application for long-term care Medicaid and still have an obligation to pay that bill. If one qualifies for PEME, this is the time period that is reviewed. I realize some of you may wonder regarding the phrase initial application. Let's move to the next slide, and hopefully that will be answered. But that is often a misnomer with applicants that come in. That's why we see multiple applications, and it's because of the term initial application. People do not understand what that means. So these are going to be some of the issues that we're going to be talking about. Let me make sure I didn't. Yeah. Some of the issues that we're going to be talking about, and some of the reasons that PEME does get denied. So can you get qualified for PEME when the case closes due to a redetermination? The simple answer is no, but there's always those time periods that will be reviewed and looked at on a case-by-case basis. So the reason that it gets denied is because policy, the MDHHS policy, is pretty clear. And most of you should have access to the public policy manuals, and you would look up BEM 546. That's the Bridges Eligibility Manual. And it's an unpaid medical bill, which must be reported prior to the first Medicaid redetermination following the initial eligibility. PEME itself was meant to be used the first time someone applies for and became eligible for long-term care benefits. The reason PEME, one of the main reasons PEME came into being was to help those people who, for the first time, found themselves applying for Medicaid, entering a nursing home, and had assets. And to be truthful, most of the time it was simply a life insurance policy. And to be truthful, it was a small amount, but that amount exceeded the 2,000 asset limit for a single individual. And so retro often got denied because they could not cash that out in time. But you have to remember 2,000, a little over 2,000, let's say they had an extra 4,000. That was not going to pay a nursing home for 3 months. And so it was the new nursing homes that were losing in this situation. And that was part of the reason that PEME came into being, was to help those facilities get paid for the services they were providing. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go on to a couple examples. Tom submits his redetermination application in March of 2022. Tom's family discovers a life insurance policy in a drawer that they didn't realize he had. You don't realize how often that happens. People will, once they have parents placed, they'll start cleaning out the house, and it's amazing what they find hidden away that their parent doesn't even remember they had. So the family reports the policy when they submit the redetermination application. And the MDHHS worker informs the family that the policy will exceed the face value, the cash value will exceed his asset limit. So the policy must be cashed out. It takes time to cash out an insurance policy. So MDHHS denies his application at redetermination, and Tom's Medicaid closes effective May of 2022. Tom reapplies after the policy has been cashed out and the money's put into an irrevocable funeral contract, which is allowed by MDHHS. But by the time that is completed, Tom doesn't reapply for Medicaid till July of 2022 and is approved effective July 1st of 2022. So Tom lost coverage for May and June of 2022. Tom would not qualify for PEME because he has passed the first redetermination month. It takes time, anywhere from 2 weeks to several months, to cash out a life insurance policy. And I hate to say it, but not all of the issue lies with the insurance companies. There are families who, even when they know and have been told that the policy must be cashed out, they drag their feet. And they don't realize the repercussions of delaying that process. The only thing I always try to stress, I stressed it back then, I stress it now, is families need to search for all the assets that their parents might have. They need to go through the drawers in the house. They need to look in closets, in boxes, because it's amazing what you might find when you do that. Because as our parents age, they honestly do not remember all of the policies or all of the assets they might actually be holding. And it can be devastating to a family and to a client when some of that is discovered and they end up losing their benefits. Here's a second example that we have. Lily's Medicaid closed in December of 2021 for not submitting her redetermination form timely. So she submitted a new application for Medicaid in March of 22 and a retro Medicaid application for January and February of 2022 as well, because she did not have the coverage. Lily's application is approved effective March of 2022, but the retro application is denied for excess assets. Who knows? Maybe it was a life insurance policy. Maybe it was a bank account to where her patient pay that she had been paying the nursing home was accumulating. Because once a case closed, maybe she just didn't pay the nursing home. And that happens too. And that is why even if a case closes and a client is still in a long-term care facility, nursing homes still need to try and collect that patient pay money. That will help keep their bank accounts below that 2,000 limit if that is the only reason. So here the facility's delays in applying for PEME for January and February. And Lily leaves the facility in June of 2022. The facility might try and apply for PEME, but would be denied the benefits because Lily is no longer a resident in a long-term care facility and no longer has a patient pay. I saw this happen a lot. I can only stress to facilities that you need to be on this. And if there's months you don't have coverage, you need to be applying for PEME. And maybe in this case, PEME might have shut down even once it was approved because she left. But there's another scenario coming up that might explain how that process could possibly work for you and be of definite benefit. So a second reason PEME often gets denied has to do with medical bills being submitted. So can any medical bills be submitted? And the answer is yes, but can it be used is another question. The unpaid medical bill submitted must have been incurred in the 3 months prior to the initial Medicaid application month. You cannot submit bills that are 2 years old. Do not submit an EOB, which is an explanation of benefit, even though it may state that you might owe something, it is still not a medical bill. Do not submit bills that have been paid. Bullet number 2, the unpaid medical bills can be cost of room and board for Medicaid long-term care. It can be remedial care and other medical expenses recognized by Michigan law, but not covered under the Michigan state plan. That is strictly taken from policy. There are times when a person is in assisted living, if their income is low enough and they qualify for Medicaid, they often have other bills, medical bills that will not be covered by Medicaid. And just to reiterate, PEME will not cover room and board in a long-term care facility, but there is a chance that we could cover some of those unpaid medical bills. And the third bullet says the unpaid medical bill submitted must show the month incurred and it must be unpaid. In other words, we need a date of service. And it cannot be paid. So do not submit bills that you have paid hoping to get reimbursed, because PEME is not a reimbursement program. And we do check. We do verify that the bill is unpaid. There are times that, depending on the age of the bill, some providers will just write off the bill. They do reinstate it if they find they have a chance of being paid by PEME, and that's fine. We don't have an issue with them doing that. But oftentimes they do write off the bill if it is a much older bill. Okay, let's see here, page 9. Oh, and there's another side note to this whole billing issue. You can submit PEME bills that are unpaid, once you've even been approved for PEME, and it's a different bill. We realize, or the PEME process realizes, that not all bills will you get timely in the mail. Some providers wait a year. So if PEME has been approved and all of a sudden you're getting new bills in, do not hesitate to submit them to be added to the PEME debt. As long as they meet the 3 months when the bill was to have been incurred, you can always submit them. And oftentimes people don't realize that that can be done. So how does PEME work in a divestment period? This is another reason PEME can get denied. One of the biggest reasons that nursing homes do not get paid. So when a beneficiary is in a divestment period, penalty, PEME cannot be used. So if you're in divestment, let's say June through July, do not submit your unpaid bill to the state of Michigan for reimbursement or for PEME approval, because it just can't be covered while you are in a divestment penalty. So with regards to divestment, I have a couple examples. Mildred here is serving a divestment penalty from March 1st of 2022 through August of 2022. The facility is not being paid their room and board for these months. PEME cannot be used to cover that room and board from March through August of 2022. The facility is out of luck unless they use another remedy for payment, such as a lien on an estate. At Carrier Law, we avoid divestments. That's why it's real important to give us a call and send us your referrals when you have a client coming into the facility that may have a house or have funds. We avoid them, and we avoid them the possibility of whatever they have going into an estate recovery problem through the state of Michigan. We want all of the clients cared for and you to get paid on a timely basis. So let's go to another example. Example 2. Mary applies for long-term care Medicaid in March of, I've got to move me over a little bit, of 2022 with a retro application for 1 month prior. So she submits the retro for February of 2022. She is denied retro Medicaid due to excess assets. I think she probably gave money away. Mary is found to have a divestment penalty for 8 months, starting in May of 2022. So do a little math, and how long does 8 months take her out to? From May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December of 2022, she's in divestment. PEME can be requested to cover February for while she is in that divestment penalty, but it cannot be put onto the Bridges system till the divestment penalty has been served. And I think a lot of facilities are missing this point. If you're doing this on your own, you need to be applying for PEME or work through us to get it applied for. Bullet 2, the facility must apply for PEME prior to February of 2023, though, because that's Mary's redetermination month. And that's in a traditional time period of redeterminations. With COVID, we realized that redeterminations have been shut down. And so some of the rules have been stretched. So if you by chance have a case that was submitted and approved by somebody else, and you find that you could possibly have a PEME, but you're past that 12 months, do not hesitate to apply and let Lansing determine whether or not they would qualify for that during this COVID time period, because a lot of the rules have been stretched and you might find that you qualify for something. Bullet number 3, PEME should be approved for Mary, but the issue that could arise for Mary and for a facility is if Mary by chance passed away before the PEME could be entered into the system. Mary leaves the facility and refuses to pay the facility, or it's determined there's a 0 PPA. So that could be another issue with regards to what could happen during a divestment penalty. But some of this could also happen when you don't have a divestment penalty and you have PEME activated and approved. Things could be going along and your client could pass away. When a client passes away, PEME stops. If the client leaves the facility, PEME stops. If there's a 0 PPA, PEME stops. And believe it or not, if a client refuses to pay the facility their patient pay, PEME stops. So at this point, there's some basics that I want to still go back and go through just to refresh our knowledge. And I realize this might be going a little faster than I hope and that you hope. I'm hoping we have some questions at the end. But I do realize this is your lunch hour as well. And I am very mindful of your time. So let's continue on with some of our basics. Just as a refresher and for those who are basically new. Who can apply for a PEME offset? A nursing home resident can apply. A power of attorney can apply. A guardian, a facility, an MDHHS caseworker can apply. An attorney can apply if assigned release from the family. And possibly others can apply that would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I remember at one time I had a family friend apply. There was nobody else. And she had no family left. There were no papers that had been done. And so she basically became an authorized rep. And we did accept it and we worked with her on getting guardianship. But in a case like that, can be a case-by-case basis. And the state does try to show some leniency if we can determine that there is a definite need. And we at Carrier Law definitely try to make sure we have all of our documents in order to assist people who have nobody else that can help them. And again, that is a good reason to make a referral to Carrier Law because families who don't have members to assist them, they need those documents written up and they need them done correctly. And we make sure that they are Medicaid compliant when they are done. Another thing I want to bring up at this point before we go on is the term offset. Not all of you realize what an offset is for PEME. PEME is based on, it's considered an offset program. And in order for you to get PEME payments, what happens when it's approved for PEME is that the worker in Lansing will go into the bridge system and zero out the patient pay for the time period that PEME is approved. And then a letter is sent to the resident and to the family, to an attorney, whoever's on record, to the facility, saying that PEME has been approved for this time period. The system will reflect a 0 PPA for that time period. So for the time period that PEME is enacted, the state of Michigan will pick up the entire bill for the facility. But the resident is to be giving the patient pay money to the facility to cover that back bill. That is what is the offset. So when PEME comes into play and it's put on the system, and facilities see when it's done or they've received the letter, they should still be collecting that payment from the client, from their patient, and it should be applied to that back unpaid medical bill. Now, if the bill isn't a nursing home and if they have family members, then the family member would be using that money to pay those other bills. Information needed to determine PEME eligibility. So when you submit a request for PEME on your own, you would need a nursing home resident's name, the Medicaid ID or case number, months you are requesting PEME to cover, verification of the unpaid medical bills for each month, and bills are and as a reminder, bills or statements must be dated within 60 days. That is kind of a clue that the bill is still owed, but that bill almost also should have a date of service on it. So a lot of times those new statements do not have a date of service on them. So it's always nice to attach an older bill to it that would have the date of service on it. Nursing home residents' unpaid bills can include the cost of room and board for medical long-term care, Medicaid long-term care, for doctors, hospitals, pharmacy, and any other unpaid medical expenses. As a reminder to nursing homes, oftentimes you submit a dental or a vision bill, I think even podiatry, but those bills can be offset on your side. And you just need to review your provider manual. And I used to remember the name of the site in the manual, what page to go to, but I don't remember anymore. But that can get paid from your side. If you need help with that, always feel free to call provider support with the state of Michigan, and they will direct you to the proper place. So the second bullet says that the unpaid bills must be reported prior to the first 12 months, which is 1 year, after the initial eligibility for long-term care Medicaid has been established. We've gone through this. And the third bullet cannot be for the month of Medicaid application or after. So give that some thought when you're thinking of submitting an application on your own for Medicaid purposes. If you submit it too soon, you can lose coverage because they might have excess assets in that month. If you submit it too late, though, you could also lose a PEME month. So that is something you need to be mindful of. And that, again, is something that we here at Carrier Law always keep track of. We make sure those applications are submitted in the correct month. And we also make sure that we are not losing any PEME months. Don't make these mistakes. Some of this we've gone over, but I am going to go over it again. Bullet number 1, filing a Medicaid application at the wrong time. We just talked about this. It can cost you money. It can cost you lots of money. I have seen 3, 4, 5 months of losses simply because an application was not filed correctly and in the correct time period. Bullet number 2, telling the residents to spend down, transfer assets, gift, or not report assets to qualify. The clients who have assets, homes, cottages, investments should all be referred to Carrier Law. We've handled these type of clients for at least 30 years. And our model and mantra are 3 different things: no poverty, no charity, and no waste. And I want to touch base on each of those things. No poverty is our top priority. We do not want our clients or patients to go broke, but we want them to be cared for. And we can't commend you enough for the work you do in caring for patients. Charity, no charity. Is it wrong to assume that you should be paid for your services? Next to patient care, facilities are our top priority in seeing that they get paid. You deserve to be paid. You perform a valuable service. And no waste. We live in a very different environment than we did even 5 years ago. The most products and services, the cost has skyrocketed. The cost of care has skyrocketed. Your daily rates have gone up through no fault of your own. It's just the world we now live in. I was just telling somebody here that I recently had to purchase a new vehicle because I was in an accident this winter. And I actually had to pay more for that vehicle than I paid for my first house. And I sat there and thought about that a long time. Inflation has really taken hold, and the cost of things have skyrocketed. Our planning process here incorporates seeing that the best care is given to our clients through you at the facility and all the hard work you do. We also work hard to see that you get paid for those services. And if there's anything left, again, this goes to no waste, it will go to the children as the parents intended. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. Not as long as our patients are getting the care they are deserving of, that they've worked hard for, and as long as you're getting paid, then whatever's left would eventually go to children. The third bullet point is a failure to follow redetermination paperwork timely. That's what this one of the biggest issues is. People don't file that redet in a timely fashion. And right now we know this is a hard point because the state of Michigan hasn't decided when they're going to start redets again officially. I think some counties are doing them. I can't answer that for a fact. I have seen some redets come through and not often. So I think as a facility, you need to be mindful of that. Maybe you need to look at how long your client has been on Medicaid. Look at the last redetermination you did. Either reach out to us or reach out to the caseworker and see if there is a timeline in place, and maybe set yourself a task to watch that and monitor it. Again, handling redeterminations is something we do, and it saves dollars and cents for all of you. And that is our goal. So who determines eligibility for PEME offset? It used to be me. I did it for almost 15 years. And then I handed the reins to Tracy Distel at MDHHS, and she is the only one in the state of Michigan who does this. So for some of you who think once you get a denial, you can reapply and hopefully get somebody else, that doesn't happen. It's always the same person. And Tracy does a very good job. She can be contacted by phone, which happens to be my old phone number, email, fax, or snail mail at the address noted in BEM 546, page 10. Now, if you send it via mail, at this point, most people are not going into the office in Central. They are still working from home, and most of them will continue to work from home. We do have mail, or they did have mail staff going in to scan things into the system. So that if you can send it to Tracy's mailbox, which is the third bullet point, that is how she prefers to get the PEME request. That way they get logged in correctly and timely, because she does have a timeline as well to process cases. And if it goes via another method, that timeline may be delayed. Tracy, I do know, is also very willing to talk to you if you have questions or concerns about it, or you have a case you're not sure of that you are handling on your own. She is more than willing to talk to you. I am more willing to talk to you. I'm hoping that we can be a partner with you. Tracy and I do converse periodically on cases. So feel free to always give me a call as well if you have a concern regarding a PEME process that you might be working on. Oops. Our purpose. Our purpose here at Carrier Law is to make the rules work for the people who play by the rules. Our passion is to help those not lose their life savings that they have worked for and sacrificed for all of their life. Our clientele play by the rules, and you at the facilities always play by the rules, as well as providing top care for our elderly population. I have been down the path with both of my parents, and my family cannot say enough about the care that my parents received at the facility they were in. It was phenomenal to watch the staff at work, to be able to walk in any time and know that my parents were well cared for. They were fed well, they were clean, and that the staff that was there where they were housed were always on top of everything. And I know that is the same for all of you out there. I know you're all short of staff, and I know you're all putting forth the highest effort you can for the work that you do. And we just don't show enough appreciation for it. And I myself, and I know the team here, we definitely appreciate everything you do on a daily basis. We know you need your time off. We understand that, and we hope you're able to take your time off. And we hope that you continue to provide the services that you provide. I also want you to know that we have a top-notch liaison that works for us, and her name is Chris Cleary. And she is a liaison with the facilities, and she works side by side with the facilities and the Medicaid team here. Some of you may already know her. And if you don't, we hope that if you come on board with Carrier Law, that you will get to know her. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending your lunch hour with me. David has just walked into the room. I don't know if he has a few comments he wants to make or not this time around.
Only listen to Ardene. She knows what she's talking about. And no, they just had me scheduled for the Q&A.
Okay. All right. And I know we're ending, here's David. I know we're ending a little earlier. I always try to slow it down. I always try to incorporate more, but I do try to be mindful of your time because I know you're all as busy as we are. And so if you know, we can do lunch and learn in 45 minutes, then I'm on board with that, because I do understand that you have things to get done as well. So let's see if there's
some. Yeah, we have some. Yep. So we have some great questions.
You get questions.
Can I apply for PEME more than once before a redetermination?
Yes. Yes, you can apply for PEME as many times you want. I'm going to assume that in this case, you received additional bills. So yes, you can always submit those bills, but let's say you get denied PEME before that redetermination month and you've cleared up the problem, then yes, definitely submit another request for PEME. My theory is always request it because there could always be something that the person looking at the case missed the first time around. So always apply if you have a question about it.
Can you elaborate on when is the wrong time to apply for Medicaid? The wrong time.
Well, the wrong time to apply for Medicaid is when you don't know what the answer is going to be. Now, what we see a lot is facilities like to have a case that's, you know, Medicaid pending. And no one's actually gone through and done the work to figure out what's going on. When you submit that application, you have to account, you know, starting in the month of application for any divestments there may be. Now, you can cure those divestments, what have you, but if you don't know what's going on and you submit the application, you could subject yourself to a very long penalty period where if you did some, and this is what we do, we have multiple touches with our families before we actually put a plan together, because we have to find out what's going on first before we can make give any reliable advice. So You really need to know, what are the assets? Where are they? You know, so many people, I'm sure all you know that when the house is in the trust, a revocable trust, for example, it's cash, it's a countable asset, right? Well, you'd be surprised how many people have trusts and you wouldn't have thought they had trust. Doesn't show up on their tax statement. They have a trust and the house is in it. Now you submit the application, they go check it, and it turns out you've lost 2 or 3 months of eligibility because you didn't know when you submitted the application that the house was in the trust. Just for example.
So you cannot have a house in a trust and apply for Medicaid.
Well, actually, if you're a married couple, you actually want the house in the trust when you're applying for Medicaid.
Oh,
You want it to count depending on the assets that the client has, which is my point. You don't want to submit an application until you know, you already developed the facts, you know that it's going to be, or you have reason to believe that it's going to be approved. Until you're at that point, don't submit the app. We don't submit the application until it's 4 inches thick, with all the backup and everything. We don't want to get a verification checklist. We don't want to hear from DHHS. We just want the thing to go nice and smooth.
right.
But before we've gotten to that point, we've figured out what are the hazards? Where are the sand traps and in the ponds? That's my golf analogy. How's that?
It's good.
But you want to find that stuff out first. You don't want them telling you about it.
Another question is, Ardene, when you were at DHS, what was the main reason that a PEME got denied?
The main reason PEME would be denied would be because of the redetermination time period. And assets were discovered. They would pass the redetermination period, or they would just be before, and we discovered additional assets. And that would be one of the biggest reasons PEME would be denied.
So it sounds like what David was saying about making sure that you uncovered everything prior to application would
Yes,
not only get the approval, but also raise no red flags as far as PEME goes.
correct. And that's why I highly stress for anybody applying through us that they go through their parents' home and start digging through the drawers. It's amazing what they discover.
Last year we found a knapsack it was a bug out bag. Now these people have been married for decades, right? And husband finds the knapsack with $40,000 of bearer bonds and cash. And, I guess, probably mom's advice, be sure to have your mad money.
Yeah.
Well, she had it. Now here's the thing. When we take on a case, we believe that we've already heard everything, but that's not always the case, especially when kids are doing the application. And so we have done literally hundreds of change reports where the kids are like, oh, I found the life insurance policy. I didn't know it, it looked like an old magazine. It was an annuity, things like that happen. But when they do, and you are proactive on it, no problem. You've got 10 days to report that. Well, they're kind of flexible on that, as a matter of fact. But if you say, hey, look, on Monday, we found this stash of cash. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, here's what we did with it. Friday, we're still good to go. We have never lost one of those. They always, they could go back, theoretically, they could go back and say, hey, you were never qualified. Never qualified. You were always over assets. That has never happened. They just continue on. And when during that redetermination period, when the case gets redetermined, we're about to get 2 or 3 years worth of redetermination, all squished together. I'm telling you, it's the oncoming freight train. We're very concerned about it. But when that happens in redetermination, there's an entire week that's devoted to asset detection. All right. And all the register of deeds there, it's all full text search, it's all online. You know, they're doing searches like they didn't used to do searches. So we're anticipating that that whole asset detection thing, that's going to be a big deal going forward. You know, we see people, they have 12 months and they mess it up. Give them 36 months and see what happens. It's especially for you guys. I mean, it can be scary.
Ardene, can you just review, you talked about the divestment penalty. Can you review that again?
As far as the divestment penalty, they do not qualify for PEME while serving that divestment penalty. But they can apply for PEME during that divestment penalty if it's before the first redetermination. And PEME then could be activated once the divestment penalty is served. That's very important. You know, a lot of facilities did not realize that.
That's 3 months.
That's 3 months of coverage that you could, up to 3 months that you could be losing. But yeah, so if you get that initial letter and they say, well, she qualifies, but she's in a divestment for this time period, submit a PEME application, or if it's our file, we already have done that because we know that if they qualify for the PEME, it will be approved, but it just can't be entered into the Bridges system until that divestment period is over.
Okay.
Is that clear? I mean, what you just said is so, that is critical, because what people do, and this was my original understanding of the thing. Hey, if you're serving a divestment penalty, if you have divestment, forget it. PEME's not for you. That is not the case. You can still get PEME. You're just not going to get it until the divestment penalty, the penalty period has been served.
Yeah.
And it's then before the redetermination though, right?
Yeah, they need to do that, but my advice is still, if they're doing this on their own, to request an appeal if it gets denied, because policy is real gray on that area. And it's a winnable appeal in my mind. And we don't lose appeals.
It's like my mother told me regarding dating when I first got started. You know what she said to me? Said, David, if you don't ask, you don't get. Same way with PEME.
Right.
Good advice. You know, mom's advice served me well.
Yep.
You don't ask, you don't get. You always ask.
Yeah.
Even if you think they're going to say no, they might not.
Right. Can you define divestment?
Divestment is the transfer of a resource for less than fair market value. A resource is a countable asset, could be a non-countable, could be a countable or an exempt asset. It's any asset that's owned. Now, we're battling our way through. That's what the law says. That's a quote from the Bridges Eligibility Manual. But we've got this new kind of amorphous concept of financial benefit. And they just started introducing this recently. And I think somebody must have gone to a seminar and decided, even if you don't have a transfer of a resource for less than fair market value, okay, you did get fair market value. It was a transfer of a resource. You got fair market value. Now they're saying, oh, but you didn't get any financial benefit from it. An appeal that we're working on right now, a lady painted her house.
Yeah.
Painted her house. And they're saying there's no financial benefit to that because she was in care at that point, or was shortly thereafter, very shortly thereafter. But she painted her house. They let you keep the house, but they don't let you paint it.
That makes no sense.
Mind-boggling. Well, which is why we're taking it. But you know, that got upheld at the administrative law judge level, and now we're taking it up to circuit court. You should understand too, the way that we handle cases, when somebody comes to us and says, can you get me qualified for Medicaid? And we say, yes. Part of our engagement with the client is, if it gets denied, we'll take the appeals at no additional, there's no additional fee. and we'll take those appeals just as far as they go. We'll pay for the expert witness. We'll pay for the transcript. We'll pay, that's all on us because we told you, the client, you're going to get these benefits. And then it's not your fault that they made new stuff up. That's on us. We'll handle that. And we're been very, very successful on our appeals. And that's only less than half. Beg pardon?
I have another question.
Yep.
If you're done, Dave.
Well, I was just going to say it's 1 out of 200 cases gets denied. So it's very unusual for us to have an appeal. We generally work them out at the supervisor level. But we are not afraid to go we just got a decision out of the Court of Appeals on a favorable opinion that went against all the judges in the 17th Circuit. So, it's nice to have a Court of Appeals sometimes,
Right. So this person has been taught that if you apply for Medicaid and are denied, then you have to reapply. You cannot qualify for PEME. Is that true? So if you applied, got denied, then reapplied, can you qualify for PEME or not?
Okay, the response back is, which months are you applying for PEME for? Because PEME looks at the original application, the initial application. So it would be looking at the first application, not the second one. So let's say you got denied, I would reapply immediately as soon as you got that denial in hand to at least look at getting 1 or 2 months of the PEME.
But if they had the Medicaid and they were denied, there was a reason it was denied.
There was a reason it was denied, correct? Yes.
So maybe the house was in the trust.
Mhm.
Now you take the house out of the trust, your countable assets go from 200,000 down to 2,000, 1,500. Now you qualify. Well, that's an easy fix. And now you still go back.
That's a question though, that I know there could be a different answer for, and whoever submitted that question, I want to do more research on that one.
Okay. So
Okay,
Michelle, you can email Ardene at her email address here.
Yeah.
And or call her. And
Yes.
she can get the particulars and get you the right
Yeah.
answer
because
based on the
there's,
circumstance.
yeah, there's other issues involved with that type of a question. It's not a blanket answer. So yeah, I have to look up a few things first before I give you an answer here that would affect everybody's thoughts.
So Ardene, are you open to having the folks here with questions email you and call you?
Yeah, yes.
Probably email would be the best so that she
Email
can
would be the
go through.
best. I would prefer they go through Tracy first,
Yeah,
unless it's one of our, if it's one of our clients, then definitely contact me. If not, I would prefer they go through Tracy first.
okay.
If they're not happy with Tracy, they can reach out to me.
Would they not be happy with Tracy, Ardene?
I've never heard anybody not be happy with Tracy. I trained Tracy. Tracy thinks like I think.
So what would be helpful, I would say, is if you are having an issue with this, drop the note to Ardene, copy Ardene on your email to Tracy. Because if it's an issue for you, it may be an issue for other folks.
Yeah.
Great
And,
point.
one of the things that has helped us quite a bit over the years has been the feedback that we get from you, from the people in the field who are dealing with this, as well as folks in DHHS. And you alert us to issues that are coming up. We see things that are developing. And now we don't go far down the wrong path. We can stay on the straight and narrow. It's been very helpful. So, if you just let us know so that we're aware that, because they change the rules and sometimes they tell you and sometimes they don't.